talk to you about that already? Xbox is doing a payment plan system. Like, you can opt to do like a $25 a month as opposed to paying the $500 outright.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can, like, basically they have a financing program. Do you pay extra?
Yeah, and it is considered a line of credit. Like it's a hit on your credit score because they have to check your credit score
Of
to
course they do.
see if it goes.
That
It's because they want to go the phone route.
Yeah.
They don't want to do full console cycles anymore. They just want to go like, it's been 2 years. Here's a slightly better one. Wow. So you can do a new phone. You can do a new monthly plan. We'll roll you over. You haven't finished your other plan. We'll just roll it over. If you send in the old console, we'll send you the new one.
Damn.
And you don't have to buy any games because you then get 24 months of Xbox Game Pass. So literally all of the games that you could potentially want
on
to
Game
play.
Pass. Yeah. And they just bought Bethesda. And they just fucking bought Bethesda.
I saw that.
It's 500. It's $499 for the X, and 300 for the S. Is that true?
I don't know. I've moved away from the screen now.
You're just like, oh man, that's.
You told me I couldn't have it, and so I just left.
You're like, Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. This is Level 1 GM. I am Chad. I'm your Level 1 GM, and these are my Smirt GMs. I have Mike here as per usual, and now more and more usually our other smart GM, Laura, is joining us today. Thank you very much, Laura. Laura's got to go pretty soon because she has a real life outside of Twitch and the YouTubes. So
I just have to go get my hair done. That's not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's, I guess, more than Mike and I have. So, congratulations. So, we've touched on a bunch of different stuff. We're in episode 10. I feel pretty good about that. It's 10 whole episodes of teaching you how to be a better GM by not doing what I do, but doing what these two people say. So, good work, guys. But I think it's time that we all, look inside. We get a little bit real. And we start to talk about the mistakes that we've made. As GMs, I mean, let's not take this to a weird place. But mistakes as game masters, I want to talk about some of the big mistakes you think you've made as a GM. And
are we looking for specific instances?
I would say this: if you have a specific instance to illustrate, I think that would be awesome. I'm not gonna hold you to that. If you've got more of a concept that you go, shit, I do this all the time. I got to learn to stop doing that. Here's how I've started to fix that, or whatever that is. Now, I should probably say before we go on, because you've said this before, Mike, GMs never actually make mistakes. What we do is we give ourselves opportunities to edit.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I think that is a real thing. But we've all fucked some shit up. I certainly have. Let's get started. Mike, why don't you start us off? Tell us about a fuck up.
You just saw me take a bite of a Snickers bar, and I have to start.
Why do you think I chose you to start?
Okay. Well, I'll start with number one. I want to make it a big deal for no reason. Number one. This is where you do. Come on, you're directing pop-ins. Let's do this. Camera movement.
That's all I got. I don't have anything prepared. So
you're not prepped at all. What the hell? No. I wanted to start with a silly one because a lot of these are. This isn't going to be it's going to be like a more informative FAQ sort of round table we're going to be doing here. So I want to start with a silly one.
Dig it.
I have a bad habit. I make a lot of notes, like casual little notes. It looks like serial killer's manifesto in my notebook. But the thing I am terrible at is remembering to take notes on NPC voices. I cannot recall ever what bullshit voice I make up for NPCs. And I always do a voice. I can never just not do a voice. So the inconsistency is, and it's bad, right? Because between sessions, you'll have this NPC that you've established is important, and then the next one strikes up and you're doing a different voice and everyone knows you're doing a different voice and they just have to guess that it's the same, and then it gets real awkward. Then they're like, I'm sorry, who are we talking to right now? Fuck you! That too!
And names. I tend to forget to write down the names of the NPCs, and especially ones that I'm like, this is a random person that they're going to talk to once, and for some unknown reason, players latch onto them and have adopted them in their minds as their favorite NPC, and then they keep coming back, and I'm like, well, fuck, I don't know who this person is. The one person I made up off, you're Britney Spears now. That's who this person is.
The true fear of any GM is the party adopting the worst NPC, because it could they're going to adopt an amount of NPCs. Anytime I'm a player, it's going to be multiple. I create whole villages.
Voice shift, Bars says.
Huh?
The Nitma voice shift.
Yeah, the Nitma voice. How dare you? But yes. No, the true fear is, which one are they going to adopt that you have to create a story and personality for, because they were not important enough to have one before.
And even worse, we record all of these, and they, people can go back and go, yeah, that was a very different voice that you just made.
Laura's rewatching Crosden from the beginning.
Oh my God.
In true mistake fashion.
And making all of the notes that we should have made.
She's just going to find out. She's just going to find out that I am not. You guys give me too much credit. That I am. She's going to find out along the way.
Laura, what you got? Give me number one. One for Laura.
Number one.
Yeah. When we were talking about this, the first thing that came to mind for me is I have a habit of, when I'm starting a campaign, I overplan and overprepare to make sure that I know everything that could possibly come up in the campaign, and I try and jam it all in my brain. You should see my Google Drive for the Tyranny of Dragons saga. It is ridiculous, the amount of crap that I have. And then as the campaign goes, I realize characters are never going to do what I want them to do or what I think they're going to do. And I realized for the home game of Strahd that I was running, that we still have not finished and probably never will because COVID, I over-prepared, over-planned, and then they went a completely opposite direction into a place on that map that I purposely didn't read because I didn't think they'd ever go there, and I just had to make up a session right there on the spot. And I'm like, I don't know what's supposed to be in this giant mansion that you have discovered, but you know what's there now? A Dracolich. Because I feel like that's appropriate level for you.
We're level 4? I don't...
They're level like 12 or 13, so I'm like, you can handle an undead dragon. You're fine. And they were. And it ended up being probably the most fun session that we had of that game so far, because everybody was invested, because it was a villain type thing that they hadn't seen before. If you're familiar with Strahd, you face a lot of zombies and vampires, and it gets real boring real fast. But all of a sudden, when an undead dragon shows up, you're like, hell yeah, I'm in for this. I want to fight an undead dragon. So I think I tend to over prepare and then get surprised when the group does something else. That is a DM mistake of my own, and learning to maybe not prepare so much individual sessions in a kind of railroad mindset of this is what's going to happen in this session, but more prepare a lot of options to where I feel confident that I can handle whatever decision the characters are going to make.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of similar to one of mine, and of that idea of over preparing, and that what I was doing in the beginning was trying to think of every single possible scenario inside all of the different choices that you could make inside of a session that I'm working on, and trying to have everything ready to go, especially visuals. That's where I tended to go bad. Was like, okay, I got to find something that I can throw in on the map here so everybody can see it, because it's got to look cool. And to fix that, I made a rule that I only get to prepare for a session between this time and this time on the day of the session. That's all I get. That is how, I mean, and I was stressing myself out so bad.
It's 3 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yep. Just, yeah, right. There you go. That's it. That's right there. That's mine. Because I'm already stressed out. So yeah, I've not stressed out anymore. Not nearly as much because I'm like, okay. And plus I figured out that, you guys are going to blow everything up anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You're going to break all the shit I had ready to go. So might as well just, have some stuff ready and go with the flow. But I will throw in this one now since we kind of covered that one, and that is
this your number one?
This will be my number one. Chad's number one. Chad's number one.
Boo!
I create combat encounters that my players are not meant to win. I need to stop doing that. You're supposed to run away. Or let's let shit go. And you don't. And I need to know better than to do that, right? Because I've done it, the 2 big combat sessions that I've done in Deadlands, they were massive sort of tank battles that you were just not, there was really no way you should have won any of those combat sessions. So, yeah, to fix that, I made one that you absolutely could win. That you should have won. And you did.
The jackalope? Was it the jackalope? Are we supposed to kill it?
I can't say. Can I? You can. Maybe. I don't know. So there's my number one. Stop making combat sessions that my players are not meant to win. Bad Chad.
I'm going to shoot everybody. That's just how that's going to work.
Mike.
All right, my number 2.
Number 2. Mike's number 2.
I assume encounters. And by that I mean I assume the outcome of encounters. We've talked before about my definition of encounters stretches beyond combat. It's stressful role-playing scenarios, puzzle-type situations. And I assume the outcome more often than I should. A lot of times I'll have, I'll be smart enough to have thought about like, well, what if? But I will flabbergast myself if, like, I will provide a speed bump for myself of, oh, they didn't do the thing I thought they were going to do. Give me a second. I need to go through my notes real quick. I had written this down. I have thought about this, but I'm not just being, I basically it catches me off my feet and I'm not as, fleet of foot as a GM as I should be in those scenarios. It doesn't often happen, but it happens enough that it is a problem of mine, for sure. End.
How do you? Is there a way to fix that? I mean,
yeah, just don't. I think the problem is I get emotionally connected to what I perceive to be the best outcome. You know what I mean, or
Yeah.
the most not the best, but the most narratively interesting outcome. And I need to not do that and simply allow the situation, or just basically detach my feelings from the scenario, because I often do think about like the alternatives, right? I do generally have a plan B or plan C. I just get attached to plan A more often than I should. So just removing that emotional part of it and not so that I'm less likely to get tricked is, I think, important.
Right. Laura, you're number 2.
Number 2. And this is probably more a problem that I have just in life in general, but it definitely translates over into DMing.
Taxes.
Taxes. Yep. No, I take shit personally. That if it is a boring session or a bad session, or I sense in some way that my players are not having fun with the game, I internalize and take that as me being bad and me sucking. And so then it takes me a while to get out of that headspace. So I know that that's a more me thing and more just me in general because I'm that way in life. But I have to remember that a DM, yes, part of my job and part of our jobs as DMs are to create scenarios that will provide enjoyment and fun for the characters and fun for the players. But at the same time, it's also the player's responsibility to engage in what is presented to them to also help create those fun scenarios. And I think I struggled a lot with this during Strahd when I was DMing Strahd on stream, because it was very clear to me that, or I took a lot of the feedback that I was getting that was more aimed towards the module itself, but I took a lot of that as me just being a bad DM because I had fun in that module previously the last time I had played it, and I'm like, well, then why can't I translate this? Why is no one else having fun? Why does this campaign suck for everybody?
Right. And
it didn't necessarily suck for everybody. I feel like Mike and I have talked about this a lot because I would come to him and I'm like, I suck at this. And he'd be like, no, you're not. It's not a great module. And
I would find her on a bridge. She would be there screaming into the void, and I have to go, okay, you did a fine job.
Yeah. So for me, second GM mistake is taking shit personally.
I think that's probably pretty common. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I think we both also do that as players as well. Mm-hmm. I know I'll internalize too much when I'm playing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm able to detach as a GM pretty well, but as a player, I take it far too personally.
I think maybe that's part of being kind of a creative person in general. Because everything that we do is sort of pretty personal. Maybe we shouldn't take it as personally, but it kind of is because it's coming from somewhere, and we're whatever that means. But yeah, they're learning to kind of divorce yourself personally from those things that's still hard. Yeah, still hard for me too. My number two. Chad's number two. Chad's number two. Number two.
Number two.
All right.
Chad.
I tend to either, and it goes both ways sometimes, lean too much on a mechanic or not enough on a mechanic inside of gameplay. Example. Maybe there's times where I probably should have had somebody roll something to determine the outcome of a situation. And I just went, fuck it, the narrative's better if I do this. Mm-hmm. And other times I'm like, know what? Roll that. Now roll that again. Now roll that again. Hey, roll that again. Right? Thinking because last time I didn't use the mechanic well enough. So it becomes pretty inconsistent. And I think that I know as a player that inconsistency can get kind of, can wear on you. So, yes, this idea of being consistent. And I don't know it exactly. I think that fixing that just kind of comes with experience, I think.
Yeah.
Just sort of figuring out and getting a better sense of, that back and forth and understanding that, you're...
I also think just being comfortable with releasing some control.
Yeah. That idea that, and part of this whole thing for me is remembering that I'm not here to tell my story. I'm here to help the players kind of tell their story, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, that idea of being consistent, right?
I've always thought as the GM is mostly an omniscient narrator, not a writer or an editor, but an omniscient narrator that's simply there to relay the story.
That is a great. Actually, I'm going to write that shit down right now.
Well, if you think of it like a script, because all had experience working with scripts. The GM is the stage directions. They're the lighting cues, the description of the scene.
Yeah.
And then the body of the story is created on the spot by the players.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love creating bodies.
Just keep your shirt on, Mike. Okay.
Mike's number 3.
Mike's number 3.
I hate that I do this, and it's not entirely my fault, but I'm trying to fix it. Perpetually underbalancing encounters. I perpetually make shit too fucking easy. I do. Often to the point where it's, I think my players get a little bit of an ego and think I'm trying to be nice to them or something like that. I'm always afraid that I'm going to over tweak it and it's going to cost the party in some way, but that's fine. It should be that, and I should not be afraid of it. You know, it's just, it basically just comes down to I need to trust in their ability to be challenged,
right?
In more than just, in the actual gameplay sense. Because I believe that you're all challenged, but
Thank you.
I don't think you meant that as a compliment, Laura.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Hey, combustible Dan.
Yeah, exactly the same, Dan. Dan says, I sometimes am scared of letting them fail, so I make things easier when I start to worry. Exactly. It's trusting your party, and I have that problem too. That's exactly what this is. It's trusting your party, trusting your players, and letting them be challenged. And if they fail, then they fail. That's not on you to dictate their actions.
Right. There is a consequence to making poor choices. We don't want them to die. I mean, that's like sort of that one of those big rules. You're not there to try to win D&D as a GM. You're trying to help, your players have a good time, and you really like them to win. But if they fuck up, they fuck up, I guess,
Yeah.
So, Laura, number 3.
Number 3. This was a mistake that I made early on in my DM experience that I feel like I make significantly less now. And I think part of it stems from my last one where I take things personally. Early on in my DM career, I leaned too far into the rule of cool and let some players bargain with me to do some cool things when they absolutely should not have been able to do that by rules standards. And even though it would have been something cool, or just I in my home game that I've played with folks, there are some players in that game who have significantly more D&D experience than I do. And so they would propose ideas of things that they wanted to have happen. And I was self-conscious in my own knowledge compared to theirs that I would let it happen, even though looking back, I'm like, I should not have let that happen. So early on, I did not stick to my guns or stick to the fact that I am the GM and the rules that I create are the rules that I create. They might not be the player's handbook rules. And sometimes I might let something slide, but I let way too many things slide early on. And there was really no negative consequence to it, but I think it created an atmosphere at that particular table that I was an easy GM who would just let things go, or like I didn't know the rules.
That goes back to last week's discussion of like when to follow the rules and stuff like that. If you're not following, it's fine to set whatever rules parameters you want, but if you don't stick to them on a consistent basis, then you're allowing for an environment within the group that's not going to be fair in one way or another.
Well, yeah, because once you open the door, you can't close it. I mean, you've opened it. You can't go, nope, sorry guys, I've decided we're not going to do that.
Sure you can. Shut it on their leg. Cut the foot off.
Cut their fucking foot off.
I don't so much do that anymore. That was a much first game I ever ran kind of situation.
Right. And I don't. I'm sure. I mean, I do that too. I think it's something that you want because you so desperately want, as a new GM, you want everybody to have such a great time that you're like, yeah, whatever. Let's just fuck it. We'll do that too. It's fine. Whatever. Just do it. You know.
Bar says, "Don't let players conjure cow projectiles 60 feet up." Sure. Don't do that.
No.
How did you know?
Wild shape and polymorph need to be kept in check. Just saying.
Yeah. Where are we at? Are we at 3 or we're at 3, right?
You're at 3.
You're at 3. You're
Chad's
last.
number 3. I'm gonna go with this one. I have a tendency to GM as if I am a player. I'm new to this. I'm still love playing the game. I still love being a player, and sometimes I become a player instead of a GM. And I get caught up in the encounter, or I get caught up in a particular NPC who starts to become a player character, and it shouldn't. And just sort of letting that stuff go. I mean, and that's what I'm sort of learning to do. I mean, I really, really, really wanted our constable Bill Mason to go along with you to chase those cattle down and go.
You wanted Opie to come with us?
I did, because I love me some Opie. That shit was fun. playing against you guys, but that was great. But I knew it's like, no, that's just, I can't do that, because I want to. Just because I want to play that character doesn't mean that I should, because I'm a GM. Damn it. So again, I think that's something that comes with experience, right? I mean,
and occasionally, as a GM, and we can go back to the Cyberpunk campaign. Yeah. Occasionally, NPCs become GM-run players when they get adopted so fucking hard that they're never allowed to escape.
When they feel a need that your player characters did not create for themselves in a world where they absolutely needed that. Yeah. Why none of us were a hacker, I don't know.
But I look at that as an right? I look at that, though, Mike, as an example of you kind of killing it in that campaign, because you didn't take over the game as that character. You let that character hang back. And you played it like an NPC. It's just it was a front and center that we were there, asking things of all the time.
Well,
so
thank you for that. But I think it's important to, like you're saying, remember that you are all of the NPCs. You do not have one character, because you are all of the characters. And the with Seeker, even if they get like. Seeker as the example, even though she got adopted, basically by the party and filled a need that the party needed and was just basically part of the running crew pretty quickly. I still, consciously went, okay, forfeit all decisions to somebody who's actually playing. Yeah. Just forfeit decisions of anything of note. Yeah. It's easy to make a character that's just like, I mean, we all know people that refuse to pick between McDonald's and Burger King, so it's believable when you meet somebody in role playing that does that too.
So true. Yes. All right. That was 3. Do you have any? I'm not gonna hold everybody to 4. We're hitting about a half hour here, but go if you got something, go.
This goes back to my second one of assuming encounters. This is assuming a reaction. I get too emotionally attached to set pieces or tent poles, as we previously discussed, that I put in the campaign. And sometimes they get skipped over, and sometimes the players react with them, and they don't have the reaction I want. I get too emotionally connected to how I hope everyone will react. And that is not going to be healthy or good for me, because people are never going to react the way you want them to. And that's just, need somebody to hug me. I guess I got something wrong with me. I don't know how to fix that, but
how do you fix that? You just stop doing that. You know,
I
mean, yeah, right.
Travel back in time and make my dad love me. I don't know how to fucking fix that, but yeah, it's a problem I have, so I'm presenting it.
Laura, you got anything else?
Yeah. So my fourth, I would kind of hop on the assumption train, and assuming that the characters and the players know their own character mechanics.
Please know your own fucking characters. Please know your own fucking characters.
Oh,
because
man.
I have built encounters specifically to highlight some things that I know characters can do, and then they just flat out don't do it, and I'm like, I made this for you. I made this, and you did nothing with them, and
okay, let's cut to Crosden. This is not a spoiler. It happened a long time ago. When I dropped the bomb that Death is trying to talk to Patrick's character.
Oh, man.
And he looks at me dead in the face and goes, "Why? You're a fucking Death cleric! What are you talking?" Oh, my God. I think I did lose it in the moment. And it just...
I just never know with Patrick if that was like real or if he was just, doing that thing Patrick does.
Nah, that thing Patrick does is just being stupid. That's the thing.
Oh man! Hey,
not every campaign will have a Morgan to be able to tell everyone around the table what their character can do.
Yeah.
That is so true. Let's real quick. I was actually online. I did a little Googling, and I found this. It's a rather old article from the website geeknative.com. 19 common mistakes new GMs make. I'm going to run down some of these things, and you tell me, agree, disagree. I think ultimately, I think we're going to agree with pretty much all of these. Number one, not wrapping player feedback back into the game.
Yeah, I think that. Especially new GMs.
Yeah. Do you guys, I mean, how do you...
caveat to that, though.
Go ahead.
Because some player feedback might be just specifically, I want you to be able to do these things to make my character cooler.
Yeah.
And that's not, you don't have to wrap that in. If it's legitimate or if it's legitimate player feedback that something you're doing is either incorrect or wrong or causing there to be like discomfort at the table, then hell yeah, you should be doing that. But if it's some random bullshit that they want to make their player more OP, no.
Do you wait for players to come to you with feedback, or do you solicit it from your group?
I've always felt the need to solicit it when I can feel something's wrong, because people are often too nicer than they should be about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And approaching people, especially in a one-on-one, like approaching them away from the table and group of people, is often the best way to do that, I find.
Agreed. These are kind of both together here. Under preparing for a game and over preparing for a game, right? We kind of talked about a little bit already.
I'm probably closer to under than over, but my pre-campaign of just losing sleep for a month is, I call that my backup plan. So,
right. This is standard. We talked about approaching the game like you're a player's adversary instead of a collaborator. I mean, absolutely. We've talked about that.
That's the sign of a bad GM.
Yeah, right. Devoting roles to things that should be narrated as just part of the story. That one I wasn't quite sure I wrapped my head around that completely. But you guys got a take on that?
Yeah, if you're walking down the street and you're playing a game in which there's a dragon about to fly overhead and it roars from a block away, it doesn't matter what your perception fucking roll is.
Right.
They heard it. They heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of role. I thought you meant like assigning roles, ROLE. Like
ROLLs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try to be more clear with that because that's a very important distinction. Yeah.
Just like there's some stuff like you approach a volcano. It's hot.
Yeah.
You all know it's hot.
Yeah.
You don't have to roll for it.
Roll perception to see if it's hot or not.
Perception
How about
gets overused?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, perception gets overused.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I'm guilty of it sometimes, so I totally get that. Narrating. Sorry, let's do this. Not giving enough information. Basically, exposition. I mean, can you give too much information? Or can you give not enough information?
Yeah, there's a balance you got to ride, but there's it. Especially if you're doing a prolonged narrative, not giving enough information really only matters in the short run. Like if the next room over, they're interrogating a guy to tell them, hey, where's the bad guy? And the bad guy's in the next room, and that NPC would know that. If he doesn't give that away on a successful roll, then that's too little information. But if it's like somebody who has the greater plan of everything, right, who knows something like that, and you don't give quite as much away, you can just plan it in later. Who cares?
You need to give like enough information that your players can make decisions based on those.
And they feel like they've learned something.
Right.
Moved in a direction.
How about we talked about this, going into a game with a preconceived story rather than the situation the players can explore. So that idea of sort of railroading, your characters into specific things, not letting them make choices, taking away player agency. Basically not giving them choices, right?
Yeah.
That's real. Focusing too much on your story. Yep, talked about that. Getting lost in pointless details.
I don't think I ever do that. I have a problem with not giving away enough details. Probably. I actually, one of the things I almost wrote down for our talking points for tonight is doing a better job of describing misses in combat encounters. I think a lot of people like to describe how they hit and kill the giant beast, but you roll a 15 and the AC 16. Oh, I guess I miss. No, the other guy parried you in a very specific way so that your great axe flopped to the side. Had nothing to do with you missing. You need to show skill and situation in your narrative.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, Bars. Succeed with consequences is a way Paizo is going with their games. Oh. I'm currently playing in a campaign on Saturdays that uses this mechanic that's really kind of interesting, where if you just miss, like the AC is a 16 and you roll a 15, the DM can give you the option to succeed, but there'll be a consequence. So maybe
I love that.
Maybe your dagger takes -1 damage, and so it does -1 damage now, and you have to go get it repaired in the next town in order for it to be fully functional again.
Or like you hit, but it sticks in the creature that you're hitting.
Yeah.
Disarms you along it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love that.
That is cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool mechanic. And I don't know if that's
Paizo, you got one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if my DM got it from Paizo or if he just sort of created it in his own brain. But it's been really interesting because then the player has the choice. Like, I want to take that consequence, or no, I'm just going to
I love that idea for Exaxes, actually, especially within 5e. Because it's still, as a 3-5 player forever, it blows my mind that Exaxes isn't half.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of games are making it easier for players to succeed now to keep story moving forward. It's important, I think. I think it's good to make the rules slightly easier so that people with more experience can curb them to a slightly more hardcore sense. The original, like when you're talking about any game, player handbook type stuff should be a little easier so that it's more accessible to new people. I mean, you want to get as many people in so that you can keep making stuff so it generates money and blah, 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 blah. And then if it's too easy for established group, then curb it. But
very last thing before we wrap up, and this will be the last mistake GMs make, and that is...
We're doing that. I'm going to plug the Discord.
Yes, please. That is to say to yourself as a GM, how can I get my players to fill in the blank?
Come.
So essentially, if you're going, okay, how can I make my players do a specific thing? Mm-hmm. Is that being a bad GM?
No, right? As long as it's organic. You can drop hints. You can nudge. You can put bait on a hook. But if they're not going to do something, they're not going to do it, and you shouldn't force them. But if you want them to do something and you want to breadcrumb, as we previously discussed on here, bait at something, jingly keys, I think that's fine.
As long as you're not taking away a choice.
As long as you're not removing the sense of choice and you're not heavy-handed about it.
And I mean, it becomes again about sort of.
By the way, the sense of choice. I said the sense of choice.
You did say that. All right, dig it. Listen, this has been a great episode. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for joining us on chat. That was super awesome. You can see all of the things that we do here on Twitch. Obviously, if you're watching right now, that's where you are. We game on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays.
Whew,
sorry.
The one game he doesn't. The one stream he doesn't do.
The one stream I don't do. And then of course this one in the middle of a Tuesday, which is so convenient for everybody. You can see everything, all the past episodes of things over on YouTube's under Durnk Industries. So come hang out with us there. But if you want to hang out with us on Discord, gotta watch us live because that's where you get the invite. Come see us tomorrow. We're gonna do Krasden. Some crazy shit's probably gonna happen, right, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys remember where you're going?
Yeah.
You're taking a train north.
Yeah, taking a train north. Shit.
He doesn't remember.
Yeah, we're going to the mountains.
You're going to a dwarven taig, which aren't supposed to exist.
I better rewatch the episode. Holy shit.
We didn't stop anywhere to get winter clothes.
Nope.
That's going to be an issue. Shit. Bye, everybody.
I love you guys.
See you later.
Dumb.